The Mayberry Investments Limited Virtual Investor Forum has been the standard for investor education in Jamaica for decades, where top financial minds provide comprehensive insight into the market and ideal investment strategies and opportunities for our clients. Celebrating 37 years of excellence in investment banking. The Mayberry Virtual Investor Forum, investing in Jamaica.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our weekly investor series. I'm your host, Dan Theok, Senior Vice President of Investment Banking. Today, we'll have a special investor briefing for you all, and we'll be looking at the results of Supreme Ventures Limited for their Q2. Today, we have with us Gary Peart, who's more than familiar, being the Executive Chairman of Supreme Ventures over the last couple of years, and we'd like to extend our apologies for the absence of Christopher Berry. Welcome, Gary.
Hi, afternoon, everybody.
Good deal. If you're a fan of the content, then don't forget to subscribe. Also hit the bell to stay up to date with the channel. We upload content just like this, just about once a week. Don't forget to submit your questions on the live chat at the end of the program, where Gary and I will be here to answer your questions during our Q&A segment. Also, if you want to embark on your very first investment journey, you should take that first step with Mayberry, of course. Follow us on social media to learn more about how you can get started today. Okay, so first up, with that, we'd like to jump into the Q2 results for SVL, and this is for the period June 30th, 2024. Okay, on the first slide, we look at the income statement. You can see that the gaming revenues increased by 1%, or just over $200 million, to $25.8 billion. Direct expenses increased by over $400 million, or 2%. And as a result, the gross profit had a small decline, a 2% decline, falling from $6.6 billion for the half year last year to $6.47 billion this year. SG&A also had a 1% jump to $4.22 billion, and the net result of that is operating profit fell to $2.3 billion for the half year. Similarly, profit before taxation, that fell to $1.9 billion, a 17% decline. And net after all taxes concerned, the net profit after tax and attributable to shareholders was $1.34 billion for the half year, which represents a 22% decline from the prior period. EPS for that half year period is about 50 cents. Total assets, we see those growing though by 22% to $21.7 billion. And we see a 7% decline in shareholders' equity to $4.5 billion, which is the result of the company paying healthy dividends. And then we see total liabilities up to $16.3 billion. Interestingly, the stock price is now at $23.27, and based on the trailing earnings, is trading a little richly at a 29 times PE. Which again, I believe is because the market is expecting great things from SVL, and I continue to expect great things. And then we can see here what the trailing earnings are in terms of cents, 78 cents, or $2 billion. And we can also see the 52-week high for the stock is $29.60, and the 52-week low is $22.40, market cap of $61 billion. On the next slide, we get to see the profitability. We go to the next slide, and then I'll come back to the revenue. Next slide, I'd like to look at profitability by segment, profitability by quarter. Next one again, sorry guys. Profitability by quarter, and then I'll come back to the segment. So again, this is sort of showing the profitability for the last 2.5 years by quarter. We've seen some really good quarters when the profit has just skimmed $1 billion for the quarter, where I would love to see it. And then we see in the last 2 quarters, profit Q1 was $854 million, and then falling in this quarter to $480 million. And we'll certainly be talking to Gary a little bit about what's caused this fall off in profitability for this particular quarter. Then going back to the second slide, so back up 2 slides, I'd like to look at the revenues by segment because I do think it's important to see revenues by segment. And this shows you here again what's going on for the half year in terms of revenues by segment, with lottery revenues dipping slightly to $11.2 billion, so roughly a $700 million fall in the revenues from the lottery segment. Sports betting showed $200 million increase, and I think we're going into the Olympic Games period, so it'll be interesting. We'll get the chairman's perspective on that as to whether we'll see further increases in sports betting associated with Olympics. I'm totally ignorant of these things as to whether folks bet on Olympics. I would love to be betting on any of our two athletes over the American guy in the 100. I think it's going to be a toss-up between Kishane and Oblique, but there are others where I understand will be in the mix, so I'll be asking Gary if there's a way I can get a bet on that. And then we can see what's been happening with pin codes, which has shown great growth in this half year, getting up to $6.5 billion. Okay, so with that, Gary, I'd like to just jump straight into the Q&A. First one from me. Hey, what happened to the results for the quarter? What's going on? There's a 52% decline in the revenues for Q2 specifically versus same time last year.
Well, the main difference for the second quarter was that for last year, we took a gain from the overfunding of Super Lotto, and that drove about $450 million. This year, the overpayments or overfunding, for a better word, was not as material. And so that accounts for about 90% of the differential. Actually, when you drill down in it, we actually had a better performance this quarter when you adjust for that relative to the last quarter.
Good deal. Well, tell us a little bit about that. I mean, the business is still throwing off great amounts of cash flow, and you declared a nice, healthy dividend and show your consistency in paying the dividends. How do you feel about the quarter overall?
Well, what's lost in the numbers was that for the May, June months, we started to see double-digit growth on our gaming revenue. Last year was the first year that on the top line we didn't grow. And certainly was the first time since 2017 when myself and our investment group came to the table that we haven't had double-digit growth. For the first quarter, we didn't get back to double-digit growth, but certainly for May and June, we started to see the trend pick up. Unfortunately, we had a hurricane in July, which would have put a big dent in that. If I may, I can just segue to that pretty quickly.
Please
I wanted to commend publicly the team that came on us because they were back up and operational within a day after the hurricane, and they put it into numbers. Caymanas had about 135 machines, and a day after the hurricane, they had about 119 operational. There was one vendor in particular that actually just threw up a tarpaulin and was selling simulcast bets the next day. And so that was phenomenal. Solomon, Aswand, and Chris Wills, I mean, they did a phenomenal job there. On the lottery side, we would have had about 1,500 machines operational before the hurricane. As we speak, we're still only up to about 1,200. And we don't expect to get back to the 1,500 level until the back end of September. So again, the top line for the quarter should come out a little weak, depending on how they rebound. We are hoping that once the disaster monies are released, that will find its way back in, and that probably will help the top line. But as I said, that was a positive for us in the second quarter. We got back to double-digit growth. And I believe once we have gotten past the hurricane issue, we will see that double-digit growth, which will then drive higher GGR and higher profits.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about what strategic initiatives you guys have in place that are helping you to get this growth in your non-fixed odd revenues?
There are several. So one of the things is that, we have a very great terrestrial footprint from the distribution perspective. And then also our online distribution is doing very well. or online business. I mean, all the products that we offer terrestrially, we offer online, and the online segment is growing pretty well. And as simple as it is, whilst we've been around for 20 odd years, we continue to innovate. So in the second quarter, we repackaged Money Time and we added a jackpot feature to it, and that went very well and that generated quite a bit of revenues. So we continue to look at different ways to tweak our business. We have some other enhancements that's coming out in the third quarter, and those strategically help to freshen the brand, restructure it as the player profile changes. We make changes to our products to match them. So we've been pretty good, pretty consistent. I don't think there are many companies out there that innovate as quickly and as rapidly, as we do. And each year we have at least 2 or 3 major things that we do. And so, as I said, we've come to the party with Money Time and a jackpot Money Time. And, there are a couple other things we have in store for the market.
Okay, very good. Speaking about innovation, let's talk about Ghana. How's that going, and how should we think of that contribution to your overall revenues this year so far?
Well, we're now a year in. As I said, the first objective was to roll out. It was the first time that we had to roll out a market. We were successful in doing that. We rolled out online, we rolled out terrestrially. Well, the terrestrial rollout has been much slower than we expected. So we still don't have countrywide distribution from a terrestrial perspective. And so it impacts the revenues from what we expected relative to budget. But it's like every new market is a challenge that we're bringing up to speed. So where we are is that, it's not yet still a success financially, but it's a success from a value perspective. What do I mean by that? The big barrier to entry in Ghana is that 1-year period we have a provisional license. We were able to overcome that, and we got the 1 year, and now we have a 10-year license, which now puts us in a position to move faster with our investments, because for all of a better word, we now have security of tenure. So we can change and make deeper investments in marketing. We can change and make deeper investments in the terrestrial side of the business. And we're pretty hopeful that by the end of the year we should see some major turnarounds there. As I've said from the start, when you're building out businesses, and especially in an economy that has 34 million people, when you make that turn to profitability, it's going to be rapid and the results are going to come very quickly. So for prospective shareholders out there, I keep saying, if you wait till when it turns the corner, it might be too late to get the stock at that point in time. But Ghana also has actually helped us with innovation here in Jamaica. So we primarily do a lot of business online in Ghana, and so what basically we're doing, we're experimenting with stuff in Ghana that ultimately will find its way back to Jamaica. So the moment we get the necessary approvals, etc., we're just rolling out because we're actually doing it in Ghana from that perspective. So there are a lot of learnings that we've picked up from Ghana that we have put into the trade here in Jamaica that has been increasing our efficiency. So as I said, from a financial straight numbers, it's not there as yet, but from a value perspective, it is definitely positive. Including the potential value of a 10-year license, and then also these other things that we can do there that we can't do here in Jamaica.
Great. We look forward to hearing more about Ghana. So I mentioned it, but perhaps you can elaborate on it, and questions are already coming in, and I'm going to give credit to Philip Burgess for the question, but I did say I was going to ask it. What's your expectations in terms of sports betting, and what impact do you think the Olympics will have, if any, on your revenues from that perspective?
So, the biggest sports betting event in the world is actually football, World Cup of football. The Olympics is an important event, and so you will see some amount of elevated betting. Why the importance of the Olympics is that it is run during a period when football normally is on vacation, for want of a better word. So what you expect is that you will get betting on the Olympics, and that rolls you right into the start of the Premier League primarily. And so there's a period between late July, early August where there's not much happening. So we expect to get revenues from there. So the Olympics should be a positive from that perspective in terms of revenues. As I've said several years ago, sports betting, we continue to see double-digit growth in sports betting. That's an area that we've done pretty well in. We developed our own brand, Just Bet. As you know, we acquired Post to Post, the AnyBet brand, and they both continue to do very well. They serve two distinct segments of the market. And, based on the numbers, and you see the numbers, the growth continues. And, especially the younger demographic, they like skill-based games. And we see that moving forward in terms of the healthy movement of revenues. And interestingly, our online segment of sports betting is growing probably faster than the terrestrial side of our business. So, we continue to reap good rewards from that.
So if I want to place a bet on Kishin or Oblique, I can do it through the sports betting platform.
Yeah, so remember, we have single sign-on, and so depending on the product, you can just download the SV Games app, whether for Apple or for Android. And once you get to SV Games, set up your account, and you can access the sports betting odds. So that's on SV Games. So on SV Games, you can then use that to go to any bet or Just Bet. So we have different platforms, and you can choose the best odds, and you're good to go.
All right.
So once you sign up online, you put cash on. When you win, we credit you. It's very seamless.
This one's crazy, completely out of the box. What about Kamala versus Trump? Are there platforms where I can bet on that one?
That would be some special stuff for that. We don't normally. It's not a sport, eh?
Yeah. All right, there you
go. But I think you probably will get the best odds on the female 100. I think it is very likely you will get a very interesting surprise for the female 100.
Wow.
Yeah. I think that's where the value bet is.
Okay, we look forward to it. So let's talk a little bit more about the performance of the lottery segment compared to the sports betting and pin code segments. What are the strategies in place to optimize each of those segments and profitability?
Well, for pin codes continues to do very well. I mean, pin codes track what is happening in the economy. So leading up to the hurricanes, we had record sales pre-hurricane, as you can imagine, because some locations down. It's been impacted a bit, but people are finding other locations to compensate. So pin revenues generate significant revenue, but the profit margins are pretty small. But we continue to eke out a reasonable profit from that side of the business. So we actually deliver that service twofold. We, in partnership with our American partner, IGT, on our lottery terminals, we can distribute pin codes. We can buy pin codes. But also, we have our own brand that's called Charge Up that also in the marketplace. And, both segments continue to grow. So we expect you're not getting massive growth, you're getting inflation growth, basically. And so it holds its own, and as I said, a very lean operation, continues to do well. The lottery side of the business, we touched on sports betting, that continues to grow. The lottery side of the business, the younger demographic aren't as excited by it. And so our opportunity is to find different ways and means to get them attracted to it. But right now, the younger demographic plays sports betting. So if I fix the problem on the lottery side, it might create a problem on the sports betting side. Mm-hmm. But lottery remains resilient, and as I said, because we do a lot of stuff to keep it fresh, and then we see certain changes in the marketplace, so we'll tweak certain games to take advantage of that. So I think once we get through some of these hiccups, as I said, like the hurricane, etc., lottery will remain resilient. And I think we will have a much better second half this year than the first year. Because one of the things that's been happening, Dan, for example, I know you like to see this $1 billion quarter, just like me. But one of the things I've noticed is that the seasonality seems to be changing. So normally we will have a massive quarter in the fourth quarter. Last year we got hit, as you know, and the fourth quarter fell flat. I think this year I think we're gonna go back to the mean, for want of a better word, for the fourth quarter. I expect it to be a very, very good fourth quarter. And interestingly, the third quarter, which is normally our worst quarter, is shaping up, for some, if certain things happen, it might outperform, even though it's not likely with a hurricane, but we're seeing some really good signs, and let's see what happens.
Good deal. And then I certainly can't help but ask about operational efficiency and managing costs. We noticed during the quarter $386 million jump in direct costs. Could we talk a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, the direct costs tracks your total revenue. So one of the things that happens is that, remember I indicated that May, June, we saw double-digit growth in top line revenue.
Yeah.
So that would drag direct costs with it. So that's a positive outcome in terms of what you're seeing on that side. One of the beautiful things about this business, which kind of manifests itself this quarter, is whilst the nominal profit will be below what you saw last year, we have actually generated more cash.
Mm.
And notwithstanding dividends, notwithstanding growing markets, because remember, we have a Guyanese markets that we have a presence in, that we've been funding. We have Ghana that we've been funding. We have the fintech business that we've been funding. And we, for 2023, certainly for most of 2023, we had made all of these investments. All of those investments were pulling on cash, etc. So it's pretty pleasing to see for the second quarter that we're able to generate this excess cash. So in addition to using cash to make these investments, we're meeting our obligation and still producing excess cash, which is a good deal. I think when we get to the back end of 2024, a lot of those investments, I believe, are going to start to bear positive fruit, or more importantly, deliver positive cash. We await with bated breath the final approval from DOJ to allow us to expand fully on the remittance side. We go through that process. Currently, we only sell through 6 locations. And so far, the results have been very, very encouraging. So we have applications from in excess of 150 people waiting to come on board. And now we also have applications from other remittance senders that want to come onto our platform. So that's an area that once you get that approval, the ability to generate material and significant cash is going to increase exponentially. So when you get to the back end of starting to reap from these investments, the cash generation becomes pretty good, which all goes well because we have some bonds that mature next year, and so we'll be put in a position whereby you either retire the bonds fully or you retire a material percentage of the bonds and we go again.
Yeah, good deal. All right, folks, keep sending in your questions. We're going to turn to the questions from the online folks in the next 2-3 minutes. I promise you guys, and as usual, I can see Philip Burgess is at the head of the line. So we talked about the strategic implications of your entry into the remittance business and the bill payment service business. I mean, are there thoughts of you guys maybe having a loyalty card or anything like that to tie in? How do you see yourself tying in the whole mobile wallet concepts and remittance services and payment services? And because again, I think of this business as a technology company.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. But we have to give due respect to the regulators.
Yeah.
And the regulators have a process, and we have to follow that process. Yeah. And so, what I can say to you when I allude to the fact that Ghana has created value, the things that we want to do here in Jamaica, we experiment with it in Ghana, right? Because the approvals are there already, right? And so we're literally chomping at the bit because we know what will work, what won't work. We know the market is, and we have to make our application to go into the sandbox to get your own wallet. We're now waiting on the second phase of approval for the remittance side of stuff. So SVL, through its fintechs division, actually has all the pieces of the puzzle just literally sitting there waiting for somebody to say, all right, let's push them together, right? And so I have bill payments, I have microfinance, I have remittance, I have a wallet, I have an online business on the gaming side. I have to go through a particular bank. So ultimately, what stitches the whole thing together is us having our own mobile wallet. And once you get that mobile wallet,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And not only does it grow your business, but again, I see huge cost savings because again, you guys must handle a lot of cash. I'm not going to call any numbers, but it's clearly billions and billions of dollars of cash per month. It's got over
it
1,500
it
locations. It's
it flows. So right now, Dan, you know, SVL arguably probably has one of the largest digital businesses in Jamaica, if not the Caribbean now. Meaning there are people who have more accounts than us, but I don't know how many people actually generate the volume of business
right.
on a day-to-day, month-to-month that we do, right? And we have the ability, once we get the requisite approvals, we have the ability, we have the technology, we have everything in place, we have the experience, to really ramp it up, you know. So as I said, we are just chomping at the bit. There's a cash burn until you get those approvals, but trust me, the day you see that first ad, you know, we're off the races,
Yeah.
pun intended.
Yeah. Sounds good. Okay, without further ado, Gary, let me just take a few questions from the folks online. Our folks are always with us. Okay, first one, um, um, I'll take from Neville Graham. We noticed that you've been on the road promoting your online betting. Why are you pushing this, and to what extent is this move driven by flat top line growth?
It's the future, Nepal. It's the future. Online and digital is the future. And as I indicated before, we probably have one of the biggest businesses, but notwithstanding that, I believe we can still grow that business 1,000 times. And I don't say lightly,
Yeah.
because we see what happens in a place like Ghana, you know, and a population of 34 million people, more than 80% of the population has access to online wallet, etc. And as I said, you go into a fish market, you see people walk up, inspect the fish, and then they exchange numbers, short codes. And then you see somebody now, then you realize somebody has just sent the next person the cash, and then they get their fish, right? It's the future. So if this is where the future is going to be, the person that moves as quickly as possible to make it happen is going to reap significant benefits. And I have shareholders who want their dividends. Neville, I mean, if you want to become a shareholder, you can get on that side and with me. But this is where the future is going to be. I don't think cash will ever leave in the economy, but with certainty, I think there are more people that will gravitate to digital and online because of ease of convenience. And then obviously, once you deal with a certain level of security, it's the way to go.
Yeah, and again, Gary, when we say PIN codes, I think most people understand. I prefer to call it phone cards. Am I accurate in saying you're the largest seller of credit?
Yes,
Okay,
credit in
great.
the
So
country.
so again, this is something. It's a big part of what we do, what you do, SVL, and selling phone credit. So it just makes so much sense to me to see the whole mobile wallet and the use of phones for payment services, remittancy services, something that you guys take advantage of. Damani Walder asks, Gary, are there any updates with the JV with MEEG, with me, Main Event Entertainment Group?
Uh, we continue to have discussions. There's a bunch of things happening. So remember, the entertainment industry is an industry in some instances that moves quickly and in other instances moves very slowly. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get to the end of the year and we don't make some announcements where that is concerned. You would have noticed at their recent AGM, they got approval to increase their share capital if they so choose, which is signaling that this is a company that has very little debt, and they're signaling that they now have the ability to raise equity capital if required. You know, so, whatever they're doing, I mean, we are in conversations with them because they're similar mindsets in terms of how we want to grow certain things. So Caymanas is a huge opportunity from an entertainment perspective. But we'd have to continue having discussions with the government on how we unlock that. We have the capital to unlock it, and we just need to figure out process and how to go about doing that. But as I said, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year, there's something that occurs between us and the event.
Good deal. Follow up to that from Damani as well too. Any updates on the solar system at Caymanas, and might we expect a night market to be coming soon?
You definitely will get a night market. The issue is when. And so again, the original investment in solar has paid off. We have been having significant savings on the electricity bill out at Caymanas. The next logical step was to roll it out for the stables, but we're having challenges with the occupants of the stables. So we haven't seen the full 100 benefit of the solar there. What we did in the interim, as you know, Dan, we have built online, like call it a big TV, but it's a tote board. And that tote board actually is a massive energy drag. And so the solar plant that we built, because the stables didn't come on board, it basically was there to satisfy the demand from the tote board. So we continue to see savings from that. The issue of lights, I mean, we have identified the entity that can do the lights. We know how we're going to do the lights. And, but we just have to sit with the government and try and figure out how we can do something, because, as I've said before, who adds on a room in a rental property? So we feel we have the resources to materially upgrade Caymanas Park. But we need the government to come on board, and we give them the assurances and we get it done.
Okay, good deal. We noticed
Perfect.
51
On
million.
before I forget, on the issue of MEAG SVL, there's a consortium that has been put together along that entertainment role, and as you know, Dan, they're going to be bringing Boys to Men October 26th. So that is an extension of the whole entertainment. So SVL, Main Event, and some other partners are coming together to bring that show on October 26th. So that's an example of some of the stuff that we can do and we can do together. It's the next step of moving the brand, and so you're putting together all these brands to provide an entertainment solution to the public out there. Over the next, certainly after independence, we start to see marketing for that concert and the other things associated with that.
Any chance that's going to be at the infield of Caymanas?
No, no. Right now, it's advertised to be at Hope Gardens.
Hope Gardens. Okay, sounds great.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Good deal. So we saw in terms of your investments in equity markets, securities, $51 million unrealized gain for the period, $12 million in dividends, and Philip says, are your equity investments, both public and private, tracking as well as you expected? Could you give us a little color specifically about dollar, MEAG, and KEO? And he says which IC is moving into Canada. So he's taken note that KEO World is expanding into Canada.
Yes. So on the equity side, we've discussed MEAG, Main Event. So I kind of alluded to one of the partnerships. Main Event, I think, is poised for material growth. I mean, they have finally gotten out of, for the better word, the COVID funk. They saw a massive jump in profits and revenues. And so now that business, Solomon Richie, they have to now figure out the new platforms to grow that business. So we got to the back end of last year, some good gains based on the growth of that share price and growth in profits in mainland. This year is a little bit flat, which is not unexpected. Dollar Financial, that's a business that can go significantly higher. And we expect a much better second half of the year in terms of the performance of Dollar. I think for the first 6 months, they made about $300 million, which is a pretty impressive. And they're going into the last 2 quarters, which are stronger quarters for them. And I think once they're able to hit their budget, we expect a material movement in their share price, which ultimately will redound to the profitability of SVL. So I think a dollar, once they hit their targets, once they hit their budget, will be a material driver of profits in this equity line for the second half of this year. Kio is so interesting. Kio is an international fintech company. It's a company that we're expecting major things from. And so it's interesting that it's finally gotten noticed by some of the guys here. So yes, Kio has entered the Canadian market. They've been in Mexico for a while. They have some other surprises I expect to come over the next 3 to 6 months. And that's a private equity transaction. It's not a publicly listed entity. We hope the potential exit for that would be a public listed. And, we're expecting material. Once that occurs, we expect a material increase in that valuation. I won't give you any details as to what that looks like. But suffice to say that, if you are an SVL shareholder, when that occurs, it will be a good day.
Sounds good to me. And Jerome asks, and I didn't make this up, reading it word for word, Gary, how about bringing Last F back home and merging their microfinance and remittance business under the SVL brand?
You're asking me that question as executive chairman of SVL or CEO of Mayberry?
Oh, that's a good question.
You say bring it back home.
Yes. Jerome asked the question, keep your SVL hat on.
Yeah, I think as SVL, there will be positives if that were to happen from an SVL perspective. But LASEF continues to do what LASEF does, and at this point, SVL basically has 2 businesses: Evolve, that is totally online, and Makela, which does more terrestrial. So, if you start to look at it, at some point, strategically, it may make sense. But remember, each of these entities has disparate shareholders, right? So, LASEF is public. Mayberry has 20% of LASEF, but, Lashchin's estate owns the majority there. You have Evolve and Makela, but that's a part of SVL that has a myriad of shareholders there. Then you have Dollar, which again, it's another myriad of shareholders. So, it's a conversation that, if you're able to get everybody aligned, then maybe it makes sense. We don't know.
Tell us, Gary, what is it that you like so much about the microfinance business?
As SVL, our target market is where microfinance companies focus. And for a $10 bet, we generate a material amount of revenues and profits. And with that 10, there are few things that you can buy with $10 anymore in Jamaica, right? And so, we actually see ourselves as partners with our customers, etc. We listen very closely to them, and a lot of the surveys we do kind of drive some of the businesses that we enter into. And obviously, one of them is the microfinance You keep hearing this terminology underbanked, and the underbanked people are my customers at SVL. So if we can guide microfinance and we understand the mindset of that segment of the society, then why don't I extend the ability for them to better themselves? Because they have a different ecosystem. They might not qualify for your average bank opening, but they're some of the most dedicated, honest, hardworking people you can find, and they honor their debts, and that's why the microfinance is able to do what it does. So we think there's significantly more room to grow that segment of the business. And maybe that's why we're investing in so many different microfinance businesses. Thankfully, all of them are profitable. All of them are doing well. And in their own strange way, they operate in different niches. So we'll continue to assess with the shareholders, at some point, does it make sense, financial sense to pull them together? But if you look at LASEF, back to the question, LASEF has a microfinance portfolio, but LASEF also is one of the leading players in remittance and those kind of fintech type scenarios, and they have their own wallet. So who's to know?
Good deal. Sounds good to me. Well, folks, from my perspective, I think we've now covered all of the questions we had about the results, and we certainly look forward to the next quarter, Gary, where we hope to see some bounce back. We take note of some impact that you'll have from not having all of your machines back up, etc. But I still think the future looks really bright for SVL. The business continues to have great overall top line revenues, and so I think with the changes that are coming, the digitization, etc., cost efficiency improvements are certainly bound to come. Any final comments from you about the performance or about the company before we close off the program?
Yeah, it's as I said, the encouraging thing about the second quarter, is the top line double digit growth May, June. It's gone back to double digits. Unfortunately, the hurricane, as I indicated. But at this point, I just want to give a shout out to the Olympians. So both Mayberry and Supreme Ventures actually sponsor the Olympic team to Paris. And as you can see, I'm supporting and explicitly telling them the color medal I want them to get with the gold here and stuff. But that's actually a big thing, where you want to support these athletes. They train and work hard 9 months out of the year for 4 years, to try and get a medal at this type of event. So they need a lot of support, and I just wanted to use this forum, to just say thanks to the JOA for allowing us the opportunity, and wish the best for our athletes as they sprint for gold.
All right, excellent. Sounds great. And I can't forget that Hussein Bolt is actually now a board member of SVL. So you guys are bringing them in corporately, supporting them when they're going out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We won't even talk about the Chase Fund. We'll talk about that the next time we have the program, and how many
Yes.
billions of dollars you guys have given towards education over the years. So we'll talk
Yeah.
about that next time.
I think last year we contributed about 2.7 billion.
$2.7 billion last year alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean SVL. Look at it's in terms of major contributions to the economy. It's hard to find a company that's giving away 50 to 60 cents on every dollar it earns back into the economy, and then with the profits it makes, pays out a 90% dividend policy. It's a great company. It's phenomenal what you do, and so that's why, and it's my number one best performing stock since I made this investment 6 years ago. So certainly in my top five. Ain't going anywhere. I'm only thinking about, should I buy some more now that it's down at $22, $23, because I'm convinced in the next 18 months or so it's gonna break the $30 barrier and jump, like really jump. So we look forward to future updates. Look forward to hearing what's going on in Ghana in particular. Very excited about you guys getting into the digital space, digitization in general. I think SVL as a technology company has can grow by leaps and bounds, and it's not about just trying to get people to to bet more. It's about improving efficiencies and then tying in your entire technology systems into just everyday spending and helping people with remittances and things like that. So I really look forward to coming back in the next quarter and hearing how things are progressing. I think it's a great company with great potential, and it doesn't hurt to have you as executive chairman there either.
Thank you, sir.
Good deal. Well, folks, that's it for today's discussions. I'd like to thank our viewers, as usual, for tuning in and for your support, which is greatly appreciated. And special thanks to Gary Parrott, Executive Chairman from Supreme Ventures, for stopping in today and sharing those invaluable insights. If you guys are curious about future updates on our virtual investor forum, then find us on social media, where we share our live stream dates and our upcoming guests on our official social media pages. So give us a follow to learn about all things forum related. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mayberry Investments Limited, and click on the bell to receive all notifications. Well, folks, remember, wise investors, slow and steady wins the race. And keep safe, folks. Enjoy the Olympics.
Sports fans, get off the sidelines and join the action with Just Bet. Bet on your favorite teams anywhere online at www.supremegames.com or visit one of our 100 locations island-wide. With enough games and the best odds, you can win big with Just Bet. Be a part of the game. Feel the thrill of winning. Join the action with Just Bet. Must be 18 years old or to bet. Game responsibly.
The Mayberry Investments Limited Virtual Investor Forum has been the standard for investor education in Jamaica for decades, where top financial minds provide comprehensive insight into the market and ideal investment strategies and opportunities for our clients. Celebrating 37 years of excellence in investment banking. The Mayberry Virtual Investor Forum, investing in Jamaica.